Welcome to the League. With me today, I have an interesting guest, the Special Advisor to the President on Industry, Trade and Investment. We will be asking him questions around the government's policy and how it's impacting the business communities, especially SMEs. So join me as I welcome John Uwajumogu.
Hello.
Or is it honorable?
No, John Uwajumogu is great.
John, it's so nice to have you here
Thank
today.
you.
I know the last time we met officially was at the Doing Business in Nigeria Conference 2024,
Yes.
where you were a speaker.
Yes.
So it's always a pleasure to have you back. So thank you for supporting the community.
Same here. You're doing great work.
My first question to you, John, would be to understand, for someone like you who has been in the private sector, you've worked for over 20 years in the private sector, and your last role was a partner with Ernst & Young, now transitioning into the government space. What led to that shift?
I would like to say is a call to serve.
Okay.
And part of my last year at EY, I did a lot of work, interestingly, working for the Ministry of Trade and Investment, Industry, Trade and Investment. I did consulting work around the Africa Free Trade Agreement. I did consulting work around evaluating investments for long-term growth for Nigeria. In each of those engagements, I became really interested in the dynamics of socioeconomic development, which is quite different from when you're doing a purely private sector engagement where you're just looking at how to maximize your client's value or create value for your client, and purely from a dollars and cents standpoint. In a way, the work you're doing all goes to enhance shareholder value for your client. But when you are working in the public sector or when you're advising a government, it's more of what I would say maximizing stakeholder value, because you're not just looking at it from the bottom line. You're not looking at it from a business where it's profits at the end of the day. We're looking at it, how do I lift as many people as possible? How do I improve their standard of living? How do I get many people, particularly in our environment, who are living under the poverty line? Mm-hmm. How do I get health care? How do I get access to water? How do I get infrastructure to as many people as possible? So it's quite a different way of looking at it. And I think it's more of a stakeholder value type thinking than shareholder value. And that really, I found that very interesting when your focus is not as narrow. And when you have such a broad-based focus, a number of things come into play. A number of levers needs to be pulled. Not to minimize what private sector do, they're the engine of the economy, but it's narrow. Your focus is narrow and more targeted. But when you're in the public sector space, it's more encompassing. And I think that actually appealed to me.
Sounds interesting.
So when the opportunity came, it's something that I've not done before in being in government. Like you said, I've been in private sector my entire career. So the opportunity to come in and apply some of that private sector thinking in a public sector context was something and it's an opportunity for me to contribute as well. Mm-hmm. So
that's interesting, John. So you did mention stakeholder engagement. What are some of the ways that you are involving entrepreneurs and partnering with them to clarify some of the government policies? Yes.
It's no longer a public sector thing, right? It's increasingly becoming a public-private sector collaboration. If you think about the concept of ESG, environmental, social, and governance, it is a stakeholder-centric theme. Mm-hmm. Because it's looking beyond, and ESG is something that over the last couple of years have been something that's been going around. The companies now, it's a part and parcel of most companies' policy and strategy. And it came out of the idea that you don't exist in a vacuum. Everything around your environment, one way or the other, does impact you. If you, as a company, you are conducting practices that have negative social value, invariably it's going to impact you. It's going to impact your employees, you're going to impact your suppliers, your customers. So it is also in your interest to ensure that the environment that you're working in has these elements in place. When you think about governance as well, it impacts how you do business. Are you doing business with credible parties? There are laws and the policies and processes that govern what you do in your environment. Are they credible and transparent and open and predictable? So it's not something that is only for government to do. It's something that businesses themselves are going to embody. So all of us are all involved in this stakeholder-centric approach. So I find that it's something that I believe we'll continue to see in different ways, where businesses are participating more in creating and driving a stakeholder-centric approach to value creation that is not just driven by profit making, but by creating a better world. It's not just a preserve of government to create a better environment or a better world. It is a joint effort between both government and.
See why it's important to have good people in government.
Yes,
you know,
good people. Anyway,
Yeah.
in terms of small businesses and entrepreneurs, quantitatively we have a lot of MSMEs businesses. Qualitatively, how strong are these businesses? So how do we make them more resilient? Because what often happens is that they tend to have high mobility rate. Whenever there's any form of economic issues or recession, a lot of these people go out of business. They are not as resilient. And the reason why is that there's not a lot of support. The goal is then to look at how do we qualitatively, if it's 39 or 40 million businesses, how strong are these businesses? How much of them are moving from the lowest categories to the
next one?
To the next one. And to ensure that people, you can't ensure that people are not moving down. In a capitalist environment, there's creative destruction.
Absolutely.
People move up, people move down, and that's okay. The market rewards people with better entrepreneurial ability, and also rewards people who do not have the right entrepreneurial ability as well. So we need that movement up the economic ladder. But the idea is that our businesses should create more businesses, engage more people, and be able to provide, whether it's for the employees or themselves, a standard of living that is ideal. So what is government doing? The number of things that government is doing. One, it's attacking or addressing one of the biggest issues that MSMEs face, and that's finance, access to finance. In our environments where we have very high interest rate, 22%, 27% interest rate, a micro business, and that's for big businesses. A micro business don't even have access to that. And when they have access to credit facilities, you're talking about like 30% or more. And that's not sustainable.
Absolutely.
So for these businesses, access to cheap finance is key. And one of the first things that His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu did when the administration started was to give a 250 billion naira facility for MSMEs. 50 billion of that is just a grant to nano businesses. Another 75 billion was for manufacturing at very low interest rates, single digits, and another 75 billion was for small and medium businesses at also very low interest rates. And this, it's in recognition of the lack of access to finance that a lot of these businesses face. Because if you're a rice seller, you're a banana seller, you have your small store, you'll be surprised how much just a little access to some credit facility can change. Access to
Absolutely.
capital can change because it could allow the banana seller to maybe buy more groundnuts to
Yeah.
complement or create another side business that complements that banana that she's selling. It allows businesses to scale. They don't have to wait till they've saved enough money to be able to
Flow
expand
back
their
into the
business. So, and at affordable finance, it allows them to be able to repay, and it's not cost prohibitive. That's one of the first things that the president did, was to address this issue in being able for a lot of these businesses to access finance. And apart from that 200 billion naira, there's also other incentives through monies that are given to banks, commercial banks, to on-lend to MSMEs, encouraging them to provide more access to finance to MSMEs, although not directly a government program, but that also helps in increasing finance to that sector. Then another effort is in helping make MSMEs formalized, in formalizing them, because if they are not formalized, it is difficult for government to target interventions. You can't target interventions at people you don't know.
Absolutely.
So formalization is key by reducing registration hurdles that businesses often face in looking to formalize. And then a lot of that is being done through the work of Smeden, through the work of
PEBEC as well.
Huh?
PEBEC as well.
PEBEC, the work that PEBEC is doing in reducing
The
bureaucratic
hurdles around doing business,
processes and
yes.
doing business. Yeah. So the goal of that is to make MSMEs easily identifiable, not for tax purposes, because a lot of times people think, oh, well, if I formalize it, they're going to come at me.
They'll come after me.
But the reality is that when government is thinking of policy interventions and targeting vulnerable businesses that would benefit from these policies, then it's easier when you know who they are. Like the 200 billion that government disbursed, one of the biggest challenges is, or what a lot of people were asking, is how do you know who you're giving your money to? And it's easier when they are formalized, when they're registered, when you know who they are. If you don't know who they are, then there's no accountability. So formalization is another area that government is really driving to help improve MSMEs. Because one, it helps them not only from getting government interventions, but two, in doing business with other companies, more established companies. You do business with people you know and people who have track records. So if you're formalized, then you've built a track record of who you are. And it helps you even in your engagements with both government and private sector. A lot of things that are being done, whether it is in the agriculture sector, the creative economy sector, that is also targeting MSMEs in particular. In the creative economy, for example, government, through a program called the IDICE program, is targeting creatives with grants, loan money to develop
This
businesses
information,
along.
is it out there?
It is out there. And of course, we can do better in creating awareness around these programs. But it's out there.
It's out there.
Yeah. And I encourage people to research these programs. IDICE in particular, if you're in the creative space, like people who do podcasts, people like yourself.
I'm not yet. Well, maybe I would say I'm slowly getting into the creative space.
No, but it also podcasting events are all part of it's part of the creative
space,
economy.
yes.
Yeah. So because one aspect of the creative economy is called MICE. Meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions, which is what the DBNC does.
is about.
So it's you're in that space. So you should take research the IDICE program.
I agree. So, John, before I ask you the next question, I just want you to re-clarify how people can access the grants.
Right.
What portal or platforms do they need to, visit to indicate their interests?
I'll just name a number of institutions
Yes.
that often are the program managers or the gateways to a lot of these programs. For the loans that I mentioned, the 200 billion naira loan that is segmented for different, like I mentioned, 75 billion is for, actually it's 250. I take that
250,
back.
okay. Is this loan or grant?
It's a combination of loan and grant.
Grant, okay.
75 billion is for manufacturing businesses, so large enterprises.
Okay.
50 billion is for nano, and then 125 billion is for businesses that are within the small and medium
size. Okay.
The 50 billion that's for nano businesses is a grant.
Oh.
It's not a loan.
It's not a loan.
The other ones are, it's a loan, but it's at reduced, at
Interest
concessional rates,
yes.
below what obtained in the market. For that particular facility, it's enabled through the Bank of Industry.
BOI?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the program manager for that. SMEs, which is a small, medium enterprise development agency, also have various programs targeting their primarily, I would say, together with BOI, one of the key agencies, essentially with their name, they deal with MSMEs, and they have a lot of programs that support MSMEs. They also have creative facilities that are available to MSMEs in partnership with different banks and microfinance. They have capacity building programs like business coaches for MSMEs, business development professionals that support MSMEs, training for MSMEs. So they have a number of, quite a lot of programs that I can't even mention. And I think I encourage businesses to go to their website and take a look at all the different initiatives and programs that SMEs is running. Then there's also the ITF, Industrial Training Fund. In fact, they are more focused around capacity building, upskilling.
Yes.
And there's a particular program that I do right now called Skill Up Artisans. And what it is, it's trying to upskill people within the artisanal space so that they can get marketable skills or upgrade on the skills that they already have so that they can either get better employment or even start their own businesses. So that's another agency. And agriculture being that a lot of businesses are within the agriculture space. A number of programs within the agencies under the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. So encourage people to go there as well, particularly people who are within the farm and agricultural value chain. A lot of programs that are targeted towards MSMEs that operate in that space in particular. And sector-based ministries as well, like Ministry of Solid Minerals, where you have a lot of artisanal businesses as well, who are small businesses. They also have specific programs that address artisans that operate within the solid mineral and mining space. So
interesting to know that the government is doing this much.
Right.
So my next question to you would be, what do you think? There's so many misconceptions around about the government policies, but I wouldn't want to go into those. So I don't get into trouble,
No,
So, but what is one misconception that you think Nigerian entrepreneurs have around the government policies, and what would you like to, or how would you like to clarify that?
Thing is, policies are not silver bullets. A lot of times we see it as some sort of elixir, and to me, I'll say policy is like a canvas that we cast our loftiest aspirations. if we just introduce this policy, it will just solve all the problems. And the reality is that, or sometimes we say, oh, this is what they've done in this country. Let's try and implement it here. If we can only bring this policy here, it will, solve all this multitude of issues that we have. The reality is there's no silver bullet, and policies themselves do not. They create problems and they solve problems. And sometimes the unintended, I think what being a public sector that surprise me, it's the unintended consequences of some well-intentioned policies. There's this saying that the road to hell is littered with good intentions. A lot of times government comes out with great policy, what looks like a great policy, but once it is being implemented and it's confronting the practical realities of that environment, then it begins to trigger behavior from stakeholders that may go counter to what was intended as that policy, or and start creating sometimes good, you have these good externalities that you were not considering when you made such policies, but sometimes too it starts creating this other behavior. And case in point is if you put a policy to ban importation of something, oftentimes what ends up happening is that you create a black market for that same thing.
True.
And then criminal behavior goes into that, right? So, and sometimes you can take that into consideration and try to address it, but sometimes you don't even see what the unintended consequence could be. So policy, it's something that is supposed to be interactive, and it's not just a government thing. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this stakeholder-centric approach, it needs to be collaborative. Private sector, who often are the ones who have to experience the impact
of this policy,
should be
better engaged.
Should
Absolutely.
be part of it. And you have advocacy groups through trade associations that try to influence and on the government and pressure government's prerogative on what sort of policies should be in place, and that's good. But that collaborative effort works when you have private sector who would want businesses, who would want things to happen in a certain way, but that should not come at the expense of what is good for the country as a whole. Because what is good for business doesn't necessarily mean it is good for everyone. So let me give you an example. If a business, what is good for a business is, like I said, that takes a shareholder maximization approach, right?
Yes.
Income maximization. So for an income maximization comes from putting as little investment as possible to get as much return. Yeah. But putting as little as possible may mean paying people less than if you can get away with it, unfair labor wages. It could mean environmental standards that are not healthy. Because for a business is thinking we need to make as much money as possible. But it's government's place to now say, well, there's a minimum wage. You shouldn't pay anybody below this because this is what the cost of living is. You should be able to, your business practices should not impact on the environment that you're operating in.
Absolutely.
For example, what obtains in oil and gas industry, chemical industry. So you have that pull and push effect where private sector businesses are pushing on one side, civil society is pushing the other side, government is coming on this side, and hopefully we get to an equilibrium that works for all the stakeholders. And I must say that over the last 30, 40 years, we've seen this happen better and better with the whole ESG movement, where, like I mentioned, businesses are even thinking about the environment much more than before. Before it used to be that, oh, this is government, that's government to do it.
Yes.
That's not my concern. But businesses are now how they are demanding more from everybody that works with them. Their suppliers, their customers, their own employees. So in this type of ESG stakeholder-centric type mindset, ultimately I think that what will come out of it, the outcome will be better policies because government is not doing it in a vacuum. And I'll say, what I'll say a big misconception is that oftentimes these policies are knee-jerk reactions. I've seen a lot of deliberation that goes into coming up with these policies. And sometimes when you're in government, the challenge for you is trying to address short-term pressures, right? When so let me say it this way. When the decision you have to make could create long-term
problems?
it could create long-term value that is sustainable, but at the expense of short-term pain. Right?
Like the removal of the fuel subsidy.
Fuel subsidy, for example. People are going to feel it immediately. But in the long run, it's going to be beneficial for the economy.
Nation,
But as a government, and dare I say, for the politicians, it's quite of a tight space to be in because people are not thinking, there's this thing in economics that they say, in the long run, we are all dead. So now...
What is the value of today?
Now,
we want the present value.
In the long run, we're all dead. So we did it now. And if you're someone who knows you're going to come for the election cycle comes and people have seen in world history, politicians that have made decisions that will benefit the country in the future, but pay for it in the short term because the pain that, the goal often is easy to say, well, we need to find a way to balance it. But where is that balance? It's quite difficult to find where that balance is. There's a Nigerian popular saying, life no balance. In search of that is quite difficult.
Okay, John, it's been so interesting talking to you. I wish we had more time, but I'd like us to wrap up with a final thought from you. And so my last question to you would be, if you're in a room filled with overwhelmed entrepreneurs and you have just 120 seconds, what would you say to them?
Under this administration, and even in previous administrations, to be fair, I'm amazed at the number of programs and interventions that are out there. And the reality is that a lot of these programs are not, people are not accessing them. Maybe it's because they are not aware of it, and then government should do more in creating awareness. And maybe it's because there are obstacles that program designers haven't considered, or government still needs to consider to remove those bureaucratic obstacles. But there are a lot. In the sector, whatever sector you operate in, there's an agency or a ministry that is over it. And oftentimes there are a lot of programs that are targeted towards MSMEs. And I think it is important to know what those programs are and try to access them. And there's this belief you need to know someone, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but also I've seen a lot of people who have accessed this without knowing anybody. I've seen it personally. And I'll encourage people to, while government is doing more to create awareness, encourage them to continue to research these programs and see how they can participate.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much, John. It's been very interesting talking to you.
Thank you.
And I know that a lot of people would have gained some insights today, just as I have. Just as I have. So we look forward to having you again sometime in the future. So this brings us to the end of today's episode. Until we meet again, thank you. Linda Uneze signing out.